Have you ever made a decision that felt right in your heart, but slowly began to feel heavy in your soul? Maybe you moved closer to your children because it felt safe, because it felt loving, because you believe family should be near in later years. At first it felt comforting, familiar. But then, little by little, something inside you began to change. I want to talk quietly with you today, not to judge, not to blame anyone, but to share a truth many seniors feel and rarely say out loud. Sometimes, living close to your children is not the blessing we imagined. Sometimes, it becomes the very thing that slowly takes pieces of us away. My name is not important. What matters is that I have lived long enough to see this pattern again and again. Good people, loving parents, kind grandparents, making choices out of love, only to wake up one day feeling tired in a way sleep does not fix. This message is not against children. It is not against family. It is about understanding what happens when love quietly turns into obligation and closeness slowly replaces independence. Let me tell you a story that may sound familiar. After his wife passed away, Mr. Harold was 72 years old and alone for the first time in decades. The house felt too quiet. Meals felt empty. His daughter suggested he move closer. "Just 10 minutes away," she said. "You will feel safer. The kids will see you more. We will check on you every day." Harold agreed. It felt like the right choice. He packed his memories, sold his home, and moved into a small apartment near his daughter's house. The first few months were warm. Sunday dinners, laughter, grandkids dropping by after school. He felt needed again, useful, alive. And that feeling matters, especially in later years. Feeling needed gives us purpose. It reminds us that we still matter. In the beginning, Harold smiled more. He slept better. He thought this was the right decision. But life has a way of changing quietly. Slowly, small expectations began to appear. Can you watch the kids for an hour? Can you pick them up today? Can you stay home just in case? Harold did not mind at first. He loved helping. He loved being there. But over time, help turned into routine. Routine turned into expectation. And expectation turned into pressure he did not know how to name. He stopped going for his morning walks because someone might need him. He stopped meeting old friends because plans felt uncertain. He stopped making choices just for himself, not because anyone told him to stop, but because it felt easier to stay available. That is how it usually happens. No one says, "Give up your independence." No one says, "Your time no longer belongs to you." It just slips away quietly, disguised as love and responsibility. One afternoon, Harold overheard his daughter say something that stayed with him. "Dad is such a help. I do not know what we would do without him." She meant it kindly. But Harold felt something tighten inside his chest. He realized he was no longer being seen as a man with his own life. He was being seen as a solution. And that is a painful place to live. There is a difference between being loved and being relied on. There is a difference between choosing to help and being expected to always be available. When those lines blur, something important begins to fade. Many seniors feel this but never say it. Because we do not want to seem ungrateful. Because we fear hurting our children. Because we were raised to put family first, no matter the cost. But here is the truth. Independence is not selfish. It is dignity. It is identity. It is the quiet foundation of self-respect. When we lose that, even surrounded by family, loneliness can begin to grow. In the next part, we will talk about how help slowly becomes expectation and why so many seniors feel tired even when they are never alone. For now, just sit with this question. Are you living close out of love or out of fear of being alone? If you stay with me, then write continue below. As time passed, Mr. Harold began to notice something he could not easily explain. He was busy most days, yet he felt strangely empty. He was surrounded by people, yet he often felt unseen. The house near his daughter was full of noise, movement, and life, but inside him there was a quiet loneliness that grew heavier with each passing week. This is something many seniors experience when they live close to their children. Not the loud kind of loneliness, but the silent kind. The kind that comes from feeling like your role has slowly shrunk. The kind that appears when your presence is expected, but your voice is rarely asked for. Harold noticed that decisions were often made around him, not with him. Doctor appointments were scheduled for him. Plans were discussed without his input. Comments were made with good intentions. Dad, this is safer. Dad, this is easier for everyone. Dad, we know what is best. No one meant harm. But intention does not erase impact. With each small moment, Harold felt less like a man with his own life and more like a dependent, even though he was still capable, still thinking, still feeling, still wanting. One evening, while sitting alone in his apartment, Harold thought about the life he once had. He remembered waking up and deciding how his day would unfold. A walk when he felt like it. A drive just because the road looked inviting. Coffee with friends without checking his phone every few minutes. Now, even when he had free time, he felt on call. Waiting. Listening. Ready to respond. This is the quiet cost of living too close without boundaries. Many seniors believe that being near family will protect them from loneliness. But closeness does not always bring connection. Sometimes it brings invisibility. When people see you every day, they can stop truly seeing you. Harold loved his grandchildren deeply, but he noticed something painful. When he was tired, no one noticed. When he needed rest, he felt guilty asking for it. When he wanted to say no, the words stayed stuck in his throat. So he stayed silent. And silence, over time, can weigh heavier than words. Another thing changed too. Harold stopped talking about his dreams. He once wanted to take a short trip. He once talked about joining a local club. But those ideas slowly faded because they felt inconvenient, not to others, but to the invisible role he had stepped into. Helper. Backup. Always available. This happens to many older adults, especially those raised to sacrifice quietly. We tell ourselves that this is what love looks like, that being needed is the same as being valued. But deep down, something feels wrong. Being valued means being respected as a whole person. Being needed can sometimes mean being used, even unintentionally. Harold did not blame his children, he blamed himself. Maybe I should be grateful, he thought. Maybe this is just part of aging. Maybe wanting more makes me selfish. But wanting more does not mean loving less. One afternoon, Harold met an old friend by chance at the grocery store. They talked for nearly an hour. About life. About loss. About the strange feeling of becoming smaller in a world that keeps moving fast. His friend said something that stayed with him. Just because your children live close does not mean your life should shrink. That sentence opened a door in Harold's mind. He began to ask himself quiet questions. When was the last time I chose something just for me? When did I stop listening to my own needs? Why do I feel tired all the time when I am doing everything right? The truth was gentle but clear. He had traded independence for proximity. safety for silence, routine for self-expression. And while those trades were made out of love, they came at a cost. Many seniors reach this realization slowly, often late at night, often alone, often after feeling exhausted without knowing why. Living close to your children is not always wrong, but living without space to be yourself can slowly dim your spirit. In the next part, we will talk about what happens when a senior chooses balance instead of closeness, and why a little distance can sometimes bring families closer than ever before. Something shifted inside Mr. Harold after that quiet realization. Not all at once, not dramatically, just a small change in how he listened to himself. For the first time in a long while, he allowed a simple thought to surface. What if there is another way to live that does not take me away from my family, but brings me back to myself? He did not move far. He did not cut ties. He did not make a bold announcement. He simply began by reclaiming small pieces of his life. A morning walk without checking his phone. Lunch with an old friend. Saying no once, gently, without explaining himself. At first, guilt followed him like a shadow. He wondered if his children would feel hurt, if they would think he cared less. But something surprising happened. The world did not fall apart. The children adjusted. Life continued. And Harold felt lighter. That is when he understood something important. Distance does not mean disconnection. Space does not mean rejection. Sometimes, a little space is what allows love to breathe again. He began to notice how his relationships changed. When he visited his daughter's home, it felt different. He was no longer there by default. He was there by choice. Conversations felt warmer. Time felt more meaningful. Laughter felt real again. The grandchildren stopped seeing him as someone who was always there. They began seeing him as someone special, someone they looked forward to seeing, someone with stories, ideas, and energy. Harold was no longer tired in the same way. He still helped. He still showed up. But now, he did so without losing himself. Many seniors discover this truth later than they wish. We are taught that being close means being good, that sacrificing ourselves is love, that needing space means we are ungrateful. But love does not require disappearance. You can love your children deeply and still need your own life. You can adore your grandchildren and still want quiet mornings. You can value family and still protect your independence. Living too close can blur roles. Parents become helpers. Elders become background support. Identity becomes function. But when there is balance, something beautiful happens. Respect returns. Curiosity returns. Even admiration returns. Children often respect parents more when they see them living full lives. When they see strength instead of quiet exhaustion. When they see joy instead of obligation. If you are watching this and living close to your children, pause for a moment. Ask yourself gently, do I feel like myself? Do I feel heard? Do I still make choices for my own happiness? If the answer feels heavy, it does not mean you failed. It means you are listening. And if you live far from your children and feel guilty, remember this. Love is not measured by distance. It is measured by presence, honesty, and respect. It is never too late to adjust. You do not have to move across the country. Sometimes, all it takes is a boundary, a routine, a choice made quietly and kindly, a life where you are not always available, but always whole. At Elderly Roots, we believe aging is not about shrinking. It is about becoming clearer, about choosing peace over pressure, balance over expectation, self-respect over silent sacrifice. You have already given so much. You are allowed to live gently now. If this message made you pause and reflect, share your thoughts in the comments. Write the words "balanced living" below and tell us where you are watching from. Your story matters, and someone else may need to hear it.